Hey guys, welcome to Sippin' and Spillin' with Sid from 3 Mississippi. You may be wondering why I'm out by the goat pen right before a storm is coming in here. But I gotta tell you, this morning when I came out, none other than Dan the man, my favorite weathered goat, was out of his pen again. You guys may remember that he was escaping much earlier in the season in the spring when Mike was trying to get his garden started, and that was part of the reason why there was some delay with getting things into the ground, because he was wanting to make sure we had that squared away. There was some debate back and forth about if he was going over or under. I was pretty certain he was going under. And we actually, you guys could go back and look at that video on 3 Mississippi. We actually found where he was getting out on that side of the fence line because there were no T-post clips on, and the whole fence could just kind of be pushed away. And he was just literally scooting right underneath. And this morning I was like, okay, great, what part of the fence is loose now? So I got him back in first, and then I distracted them with some grain. Got like stuff flying in my nose over here. There we go. Piece of hay or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I got him back in there, and I went and walked the perimeter. And one of my concerns with this pen was that the bottom of the fence, where it touches the ground is uneven. So there's spots where it was higher up, and you could kind of, you know, if you were a determined goat or a determined puppy, you could get out. You could scoot yourself underneath it once you figured it out. And so my concern was that that was going to happen. And it did. It just didn't happen as fast as I thought it was going to happen. And the T-post clips being left off, that was a goof. That was just an oversight, right? Those kinds of things happen. You're clicking along, you're doing it, you think you finished it, and then you realize later, like, oops, I didn't finish it on this side. Whatever, it happens. But anyway, so I walked the perimeter again, and I found several spots where you could clearly see the goats had pushed out the fence and had nibbled on the grass on the other side of the fence. Because, you know, everything on the other side of the fence tastes better, right? Because why not? So, but I found these spots where he could be getting out from. And I grabbed some of these that Mike had over here that we've got for another project. And I threw a bunch of them in the pen and then arranged them where the loose spots on the bottom, where they're kind of curling up or where they've kind of pushed them, and kind of wedged them in there. He hasn't gotten out again since today, and I realized this afternoon, Mike actually just left for a dentist appointment. I realized this afternoon after he left that I forgot to tell him that happened this morning, because when it happened this morning, Mike wasn't up yet, and so it just, by the time, you know, it was like I handled it and then I forgot about it. You know how that is? I was on to the next thing, right? So I did create those barriers in there. And I'm hoping, and I did this side, all I did was put a wheelbarrow up against it, because that side I wasn't sure about. But you can see what I'm talking about. You see how the grass is nice and tall right here, and then right here it's all mowed down. That's from the goats sticking their heads underneath. So I suspect that the spot he was getting out from was over here on this side, just because of logistics and how much that side could be pushed out. So I'm hoping that I fixed it. But I need to come up with a solve for this long term, because short of, you know, basically going along the edge with like hardwire cloth or something that can't be, you know, moved up, you know, some of these are curled more. Like, I don't know if you guys can see on this side, it's kind of curled down more, so they can't, like, there's no gap underneath. Like, it's curled in and they can't get underneath it. But some of those spots, there's a gap, you know, where I could stick my foot underneath, you know, and I don't know if y'all have ever seen a goat kind of just contort itself to get underneath something. It's quite the sight. It really is. But it's one of those things that they can do it. You know, it's sort of like a mouse can get in a really tiny hole like that. A goat can squeeze through. And I know traditionally goats are climbers, right? My goats don't climb. They will climb if I put something in there, like they'll climb up on their old hay bale that was in there from, you know, the end of winter going into spring. they'll go in there and climb up on that. But they don't try to climb on the roof of their house for whatever reason. That just doesn't interest them. They're just not climbers. They like to be on the ground. If it's up a little bit, they'll get on it. But they don't really like to go above like 1.5 feet, I found. Anything above that, I think they're scared of heights. But they will go under stuff and they will contort themselves and they'll go under. So I think I fixed it. I hope I fixed it. I checked the garden. He didn't seem to do any damage in the garden. When I found him this morning, he was kind of like, it wasn't in the garden. He was kind of over here somewhere. I'm trying to remember. It was real early this morning. It was like, I don't know. It was like, I mean, not real early, but it was probably like, I don't know, a little bit before 6 or so. And I had my glasses on, but I hadn't had my coffee yet. So I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details when it comes to that part. But he was over here, like kind of in this general area, like right here, but he wasn't like in the garden. But which I'm thankful for, because oh man, I would have gotten an earful on that. But again, not my fault, because I did voice concerns about the opening at the bottom of the fence line when we were building the fence, and I was told that it was fine. I now know that that was a lie. So I need to learn when I'm like, hey, that's not gonna work. I need for the peoples to listen. Because when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm generally like, I know my animals and I know how they are and I know what they're gonna sneak out of. And so yeah, it was sort of like the thing on the coop up here. I don't know if you guys can see because I'm kind of far away. You see how that side's open because it's not finished, but the side above the door that has a door where it's not just an opening, I had to fix that. I think it was this over the winter that I fixed that, because half my birds were getting out, and what they were doing was hopping up on the roosting rack inside, hopping up into the rafter up there, and then popping out through the top. That's how they were getting out into the yard. And I kept telling Mike, I think that's how they're getting out. I think that's how they're getting out. And he's like, no way, no way. And then I watched them do it. I happened to catch one of them doing it one day, and I was like, that's exactly what they're doing. So I came out here and patched that so they can't do it. Now I've got a few. You can see there's a couple out right now. They've taken to, we have to, this fence line, the electric fence line needs to be moved because some of the shrubs and things that are wild have kind of grown up, and some of that needs bush hogged. There's some like little cypress looking trees, which I know that's not what they are. I'm not the plant person, but that's what they look like to me. They're these little tufts of whatever. Anyway, we need to move it over to that side, which we were gonna do before Freedom Weekend, but ran out of time. So they've been, the electricity on the fence is not running at full force right now because there's stuff grown up kind of like touching it and in it, so it's kind of depleted its efficiency. So some of them have taken to hopping out in the evening or in the afternoon and doing a walkabout. So, but they're not hurting anything. They're just like this girl over here. A couple of my turkeys will get out sometimes, and a couple of the younger ducklings that are kind of juvenile now, they'll come out and wander about. Not the end of the world. They go right back in when I take them back in. They just like a little rumspringa in the afternoon. And who doesn't really? So this storm is coming in. Woo! I gotta head into town. I gotta go pick up Frankie, and then we gotta go by church for a little bit for some practice that we're doing for a performance we're gonna do eventually at church. It's more of a dance performance because I don't sing. But we're gonna go do that and go practice. So I gotta scoot and go pick her up. But I wanted to give you that update on Dan, my naughty goat, and he's such a good boy. Like literally when I walked up to him, I was like, hey baby, what are you doing? And I just like grabbed him and walked him right back in the pen. He didn't fight me. He was like, okay, we're going in here now? Okay. It's almost like he got out by accident because he didn't go far. He stayed right by the pen. It's not like I find him down the road or even in the big pasture or anything. He just was like, oh, somehow I ended up over here. Very confused. But that's, that's a man for you. Just very confused most of the time, right? Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Don't forget to join us tonight for our Wednesday night live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we will see you then. Until then, stay blessed and remember, safety's off.